Today we're taking a look at a duo of pilot's watches from a brand called Atmoss. Atmoss are a brand located in Australia, and this is basically their first offering. And I have to say, it's actually a pretty strong offering for their first watch. These are very affordable, automatic pilot's watches with a very simple, straightforward design. And that's because the person who designed them is a designer and a pilot. So let's flip the camera and take a look at two watches from Atmoss, the SR01. I love to bring new brands to the channel as often as possible, and today I have a really cool new brand to show you guys. This is Atmoss. They are an Australian brand, and the brand owner himself is actually a pilot and a designer. So he actually designed these two pilot's watches to be very simple, very straightforward. I have both versions to show you guys. One is a silver dial, the other is a black gray dial. This is like a silver white, I would call it. And then you have a silver insert for the bezel. This one gets a gray insert. Sort of matches the dial a little bit, which looks really good. This one is on the bracelet. You get an engineer's bracelet, and this one is on the supplied rubber strap. I'm going to put one aside for just a second, and we'll go through one and then the other. So this one is the one on the bracelet with the gray black dial. Each one of them get a slide rule bezel that is bi-directional and friction fitted. Actually feels really nice. A little bit tight, which I like, because a lot of bi-directional bezels that are friction fitted usually are loose, and I like that this is a little bit on the tighter side. So I do want to mention that. You have applied indices, those are filled with lume. And then you have an interesting hand set. I would say they're sort of like fence post hands. And then you have lume in both of those hands. I think you have a little bit of lume on the second hand. However, I'm not sure. We'll do a lume shot towards the end. There's a little bit of a red accent on the end of the second hand. And then there's some little red accents within the bezel. The logo for Atmoss right there at the top of the dial, right below the 12 o'clock index. You have a white minute track, and then right above the 6 o'clock index, it says the name of the watch. This is the SR01, then automatic, and then 100 meters of water resistance, because this does have 100 meters of water resistance. You have a screwed in crown and a screwed in case back. The crown is kind of small on here. I'll do measurements in just a second. It is signed, and you do get a Miyota movement inside here. It is a Miyota 9039. You do get a custom black rotor. I will do close-ups of it so you can see. The bracelet is actually very nice. They said that this is going to be upgraded with screws rather than friction pins, which is very, very good. And of course, the bracelet itself has a pretty nice buckle on here. It's a typical micro brand buckle, but it looks really good, and they said they're going to add 4 more positions of micro adjust, which makes a lot of sense. They only have 2 here. Adding 4 would fill this up. It makes a lot of sense. Definitely something they should do. Also, I would like to see a half link here, but that's not that big of a deal if they're going to add 4 more positions. That is actually pretty good. It is signed with their logo right there, and it is all milled. The engineer's bracelet, really nice, primarily brushed. So the entire case, everything here is brushed. The bezel inserts on these watches are stainless steel. So they went with a stainless steel bezel insert. And you can see here on the silver version, you have a stainless steel colored bezel as well. Very, very nice looking setup on these watches. Very straightforward, as I mentioned. On this one, you have blue colored hands. I don't know if they're heat blued. If I find out that information, I will put it down in the description area below. Again, you have a couple of little red accents on here. Very similar to the other watch. You have that slide rule on the chapter ring and the bezel. Bi-directional friction fitted bezel. So very, very nice. Really good looking watches. Very quickly, let's do some measurements. So measurements on here, 41.5. So it wears like a 42 millimeter watch. You have somewhat of a thin bezel, so it's going to look and wear like a 42 millimeter watch. You have a lug to lug of around 48.8 millimeters, a very small crown of 5.3 millimeters, just about, and then a thickness with 100 meters of water resistance and a sapphire crystal of 11.3 millimeters. So on the bracelet, you do have female end links, so that actually wears basically the same as the strap because they do turn down pretty well. One other thing I do want to mention is that the bracelet will taper more, which I also very much like. Right now, I don't think there is a taper on here, and they're saying that it will taper down to 18 millimeters rather than 20 millimeters. I think this is a 20 millimeter lug span, so essentially this will taper rather than not taper. However, with the 20 millimeters, it's really not that bad. With the taper down to 18 millimeters, I think it'll wear a little bit more comfortably maybe, and maybe give it a little bit of a vintage look. I like a tapering bracelet, but that's my personal preference. Price on this is actually really good. They do have a Kickstarter coming up, $312 for this watch on the strap. So I guess any color that you want on this rubber strap. And then on the bracelet, if you want the bracelet, $347. I definitely would go with the bracelet because it's really not that much more money, and they're improving the bracelet a lot. So they're putting more micro adjust screwed links, and they're tapering the bracelet, which is really good. I wish they would make a bigger crown on here, and I think the AR coating is pretty decent. Obviously, it is a dome sapphire crystal, so you're getting a little bit of distortion, but I like the way it looks. I think it works pretty well. The other thing is that the buckle on here is just a generic buckle. They didn't mention if they're going to do anything with the buckle. I would like to see the brand logo on the buckle or something like that. Other than that, I think it's really good. They also blackened the rotor on the Miyota 9039, no date, so no ghost date position either. So that's very good. Very quickly, let's do a Lume Shot. Lume is okay. It's not liberally applied. I wouldn't call it liberally applied. The hands and indices are basically equal in their application. There's a little bit of lume on the second hand. It doesn't last very long. It's not extremely bright. It's not terrible, but it is a pilot's watch. I would like to see more lume on these watches. Okay, so my 3 questions. Are these ugly? Absolutely not. These are good looking watches. I really like the look of a slide rule, even though I have no idea how to use it. And I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there that can teach you how to use one. However, brands like Hamilton and Breitling have made plenty of watches that look sort of like this. They look a little bit more complicated, and they have slide rules on them. I think they look great. Again, I have no idea how to use them. They're used for calculations. Pilots use them. You could do multiplication and things like that. Will I ever use it? Absolutely not. Do I think it looks good? I think it's a good looking watch, absolutely. Next question, is it cool? I definitely think this is a cool watch. I don't think it's an MB&F cool. It's a very straightforward pilot's watch that has a very simplistic design on purpose, and I like it. Overall, I think this sort of flies under the radar. I definitely think this is a cool watch. I would give it around a 6 on the cool meter, but that's not a bad thing. I actually think it's pretty good looking and pretty cool. Last question, is it worth the price? Definitely. You're getting a Miyota 9000 series. It's a 9039. You're getting a really nice bracelet on here, especially when they make those improvements. You have a very nice bezel on here. The dials are very nice. Applied indices. I would like to see a little bit more lume and a larger crown. That is really my preference. I think it's a pilot's watch. If you're a pilot and you have to grab this with gloves, having a larger crown would make a lot more sense. However, besides that, I'm not a pilot. I'm never going to be flying a plane. I'm not going to be wearing a watch that I need to, unscrew the crown on. I'll never be in that situation, so not that big of a deal for me. But aesthetically, I like to see a bigger crown. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this watch? What do you think of the overall package here? Do you agree with me on my slight critiques of the watch? What do you think of my 3 questions? Would you answer those questions the same way that I did? If not, tell me down in the comments section below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the 3 questions that I asked and how I answered them? Tell me in the comments. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I will catch you in the next video.